the Lynx Eventer, the Jaguar estate that the factory never had the courage to build. In the long and often contradictory history of Jaguar cars, some of the most revealing moments are not found in official product launches or corporate statements, but in the quiet spaces where outsiders stepped in and demonstrated what the company itself could not or would not do. The Lynx Eventer belongs squarely in that category. It is not a factory Jaguar, nor is it an eccentric footnote. It is a fully coherent alternative vision of the Jaguar XJ-S, executed with such confidence and integrity that it has come to stand as one of the most persuasive what-if cars in the marque's history. The Aventa did not emerge from a boardroom, nor was it driven by marketing research or brand strategy. It emerged from a deep understanding of Jaguar's engineering foundations and an equally deep frustration with the company's reluctance to explore niche expressions of its own identity. That it was conceived and built outside Browns Lane is not incidental to its story. It is central to it. When the Lynx Eventer was unveiled publicly in August 1982 during the Jaguar factory open days at Browns Lane, it did so in a manner that was almost confrontational in its subtlety. Here was a shooting brake conversion of the Jaguar XJ-S, displayed within sight of the very production lines that had created the car it reinterpreted. The reaction could not have been more telling. The motoring press responded with enthusiasm, praising the elegance of the proportions, the restraint of the design, and the quality of the craftsmanship. Many remarked openly or implicitly that the Aventa appeared to resolve questions they had long struggled to articulate about the standard XJS. Jaguar management was less impressed. Sir John Egan, recently appointed as chairman and singularly focused on saving Jaguar from financial collapse, reportedly viewed the Aventa with indifference. This reaction has sometimes been framed as aesthetic disdain, but such an interpretation misunderstands both the man and the moment. Jaguar in the early 1980s was fighting for its life. Years of British Leyland ownership had left the company financially weakened and reputationally bruised. Egan's priorities were unambiguous: restore build quality, stabilize production, reduce warranty claims, and return Jaguar to profitability. A low-volume, coach-built derivative created by an independent firm did not align with those objectives. From a corporate perspective, the Aventa was irrelevant. Yet its very existence exposed something deeply uncomfortable. It demonstrated that the Jaguar XJ-S, a car widely criticized and often misunderstood, was fundamentally stronger and more adaptable than Jaguar's own product planning suggested. Designed from the outset as a grand touring car rather than a sports car, the XJ-S was never intended to replace the Jaguar E-Type in spirit, only in sequence. Its long wheelbase, sophisticated suspension, and emphasis on refinement made it a natural high-speed continent-crossing machine. The 12-cylinder engine, in particular, endowed it with a level of smoothness and sustained performance that few contemporaries could approach. What the XJ-S lacked was versatility, and to some eyes, a sense of visual resolution at the rear. The flying buttresses, though aerodynamically sound, divided opinion and compromised rearward practicality. Lynx Engineering recognized that these were not failures of engineering, but limitations of interpretation. Lynx was exceptionally well placed to make that distinction. Founded in 1971, the company had already earned a formidable reputation for its continuation Jaguar D-type projects. These were not replicas in the casual sense, but carefully researched reconstructions grounded in original factory drawings, period techniques, and an almost scholarly respect for Jaguar's engineering ethos. Lynx understood Jaguar not as a badge or a market segment, but as a body of accumulated design values. When Lynx turned its attention to the XJ-S, it did so with the same discipline. The question it asked was deceptively simple. What if Jaguar had applied the traditional British shooting brake concept to its flagship Grand Tourer? The shooting brake is not merely a body style. It is a philosophy rooted in aristocratic practicality rather than commercial necessity. Historically, it appealed to those who valued discretion over ostentation and usefulness over spectacle. It was the chosen form of the architect, the country estate owner, the racing driver who required space, but refused to drive an estate car in the vulgar sense. It is no coincidence that some of the most admired shooting brakes were built in tiny numbers and never officially sanctioned by manufacturers. Seen in that light, the Jaguar XJ-S was an ideal candidate. Long, low, refined, and mechanically sophisticated, it required only a rebalancing of priorities to become something altogether more versatile without losing its essential character. The solution Lynx devised was radical in concept, but restrained in execution. The XJS flying buttresses were removed, and the roofline extended rearwards in steel to meet a near-vertical tailgate. This was not a superficial exercise. The roof extension was structurally integrated into the existing body shell, with reinforcements added to preserve torsional rigidity. The rear glazing, tailgate, and ceiling were all bespoke components, engineered to standards that would not have embarrassed a factory development program. The transformation altered the car's proportions profoundly. Where the standard XJS could appear visually heavy at the rear, the Aventa gained balance, coherence, and an unexpected elegance. Inside, the transformation was equally significant. Load capacity increased dramatically, turning the XJS into a genuinely usable long-distance touring car. Luggage, dogs, and equipment could now be carried without compromising comfort or refinement. Yet Lynx resisted the temptation to indulge in stylistic excess. Most interiors remained close to Jaguar specification, employing Connolly leather, Wilton carpets, and standard Jaguar switchgear. The message was clear and deliberate. This was still a Jaguar, simply one allowed to fulfill more than a single role. Just as revealing was Lynx's decision to leave the mechanical package largely untouched. Suspension geometry, braking systems, steering, and drivetrains remained essentially standard. This restraint reflected confidence rather than conservatism. The XJS already possessed the qualities required for fast, civilized long-distance travel. The Aventa was not conceived as a performance showcase, but as an exercise in balance, usability, and quiet competence. Between 1982 and as late as 2002, Lynx converted 67 Jaguar XJ-S cars into Aventas, in addition to the original prototype, which still survives. The prototype was the only car fitted with a sunroof by Lynx. Each conversion was effectively bespoke, typically using a customer-supplied donor car or one sourced by Lynx. Build times were lengthy and costs substantial, often exceeding the value of the base vehicle. This was never intended to be a common car. Its buyers tended to be architects, designers, country estate owners, and serious Jaguar enthusiasts, people who valued craftsmanship and discretion over recognition. Within this restrained and purposeful lineage exists one Eventer that stands apart entirely. The Paolo Gucci XJ-S Eventer is less an evolution of the concept than an extravagant reinterpretation of it. In the late 1980s, Paolo Gucci, operating independently of the Gucci fashion house, decided to create a limited edition luxury car as a personal design manifesto. He commissioned Lynx to build what was intended to be the first of 20 cars, complete with matching luggage and bespoke accessories, under the name Lynx Disegno di Paolo Gucci. The interior specification bordered on the theatrical. Blue-lacquered Burr elm veneers featured chevron crossbanding. The instrument dials were modified, and the upholstery was executed in hand-dyed Italian calfskin of exceptional quality. Crocodile effect armrests, blue-stained ash door handles, and an Alcantara suede headlining pushed the car firmly into the realm of haute couture. The steering wheel was trimmed in hand-stitched leather and inlaid with lapis lazuli stones, echoed in the gear knob, while the boot carpet featured a specially woven Jaguar motif. Brochures were printed, accessories created, and Paolo Gucci himself wrote a statement positioning the car as an extension of his personal design philosophy. Displayed at the 1990 Geneva Motor Show with a price tag of £100,000 sterling, the project collapsed almost immediately when lawyers representing the Gucci company successfully challenged Paolo Gucci's right to use the brand name. After the second day of the show, all Gucci branding was removed and the stand rebranded as Lynx. The proposed production run evaporated, leaving the car as a true one-off. Its later history only deepened its significance. Long hidden from public view, it resurfaced decades later and underwent a painstaking conservation-led restoration. Today it stands as a time capsule of late 1980s luxury culture, described even in its own day as the ultimate in flash and a reminder of just how elastic the Aventa concept could be. The Aventa's clarity of design and the very small scale of its production inevitably invited imitation. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, a handful of non-Lynx shooting brake conversions appeared that followed the Aventa's form with varying degrees of fidelity, each revealing something about the strength of the original concept and the difficulty of reproducing it properly. The most individual of these was a single car produced in Switzerland by coach builder Andreas Berlet. Based on a 1983 Jaguar XJ-S 12-cylinder high-efficiency model, it was conceived as a one-off project rather than a commercial series. The quality of the work was sufficient for the car to be formally accepted by the Swiss vehicle registration authorities, an achievement that implies genuine structural and engineering integrity. Although clearly inspired by the Aventa, the Berlet car stands apart as a personal interpretation rather than a direct copy. More ambiguous was the Arden AJ 3-station car. Arden, already known for Jaguar tuning, presented a shooting brake under this name, positioning it as a competitor to the Aventa. Visually, it differed little from the Lynx design, or from the French conversions that followed, with most distinctions limited to wheels, exterior trim, and interior finishes consistent with Arden's established aesthetic. The limited photographic record suggests that only a single example ever existed, and inconsistencies within that record strongly indicate that Arden may not have developed a body conversion of its own, but instead adapted an existing car in order to signal participation in the niche, without incurring the cost of original development. The most numerous and the closest in appearance to the Lynx Eventer were those produced in France by Les Ateliers Réunis, a workshop based in Ecquevilly and created by Philippe Aubry. Between 5 and 10 cars are believed to have been built, all apparently in left-hand drive configuration. Visually, these cars are extraordinarily faithful to the Aventa, with only small details such as the ventilation treatment on the rear roof upright and the rectangular fuel filler hatch distinguishing them from the Lynx original. Technically, however, the differences are more significant. The French cars used a resin and fiberglass roof rather than Lynx's steel construction, employed a different fuel tank arrangement, reversed the rear wiper movement, relocated the rear washer jet, and appear not to have accommodated a spare wheel. These choices suggest a focus on visual replication, rather than the full structural and packaging integrity achieved by Lynx. Taken together, these derivative cars do not dilute the Aventa's significance. On the contrary, they underline it. Each exists because the Lynx Eventer was so resolved in concept and proportion that it could be copied convincingly in appearance, even when the depth of engineering was not matched. With the Lynx archives now consolidated and a definitive registry of cars established, the distinction between original Aventas and their imitators can be documented rather than debated, allowing the Aventa itself to stand clearly as the benchmark against which all others are measured. Questions occasionally arise regarding whether any Aventas received official Tom Walkinshaw modifications. The available evidence indicates that no Aventa was built by Lynx as a defined Tom Walkinshaw variant, and that no factory-sanctioned Tom Walkinshaw Aventa program ever existed. Some individual cars may have received Tom Walkinshaw racing-related components or tuning after delivery, as was common with standard Jaguar XJ-S models during the period, but these modifications were neither unique to the Aventa nor integral to its conception. In many ways, the absence of such a variant reinforces the Aventa's identity. It was never about performance theatre, but about refinement and utility. Lynx Engineering itself did not survive indefinitely as the quiet custodian of Jaguar's alternative history. As the 1990s progressed, the economic environment that had allowed small, highly specialized coach builders to exist became increasingly hostile. Rising labor costs, tightening regulatory requirements, and a diminishing pool of customers willing to fund bespoke conversions placed sustained pressure on the business. Lynx continued to trade into the early 2000s, completing its final Aventas in 2002, but the combination of limited production volume and structural economic change ultimately proved unsustainable. The company ceased operations, its craftsmen absorbed into the wider specialist restoration world, and its intellectual property dispersed. The story did not end there. The complete Lynx archives, together with the Aventa naming rights, were subsequently acquired by Pascal Mathieu in Belgium, a specialist restorer whose workshop focuses on historically significant classic cars. Under his custodianship, the Aventa story has been consolidated rather than romanticized. Original build records, documentation, and historical material have been assembled into a definitive registry, and through the dedicated website lynxeventer.com, a record of every identified Aventa can now be traced and studied. In a mark history often clouded by anecdote and assumption, this archival consolidation has brought an unusual degree of clarity and accountability. The Aventa's reach has also extended well beyond Europe. At least one example has found its way to Australia, where it is owned by Jaguar historian Terry McGrath of Western Australia. His car, Aventa No. 22, is powered by the 3.6-litre engine and stands today in excellent condition following a meticulous 10-year restoration. Its presence underscores the Aventa's global appeal and the seriousness with which these cars are now regarded by informed custodians rather than speculative collectors. Other cars have migrated to many other parts of the globe, with some being recorded in locations as far away as New Zealand, North America, and Scandinavia. In its own time, the Aventa remained a marginal curiosity, admired by those who noticed it but ignored by the wider market. Jaguar offered no official endorsement, and mainstream buyers gravitated toward more conventional luxury statements. Only with the passage of time has the Aventa's significance become fully apparent. It is now recognized as one of the most coherent and intellectually satisfying reinterpretations of the Jaguar XJ-S, a car that anticipated the modern luxury performance estate decades before the concept became fashionable. Ultimately, the Lynx Engineering reveals as much about Jaguar as it does about Lynx. It demonstrates how robust Jaguar's engineering foundations were, even during its most troubled years. The Aventa was not a rejection of Jaguar values, but an affirmation of them, expressed with confidence at a time when the factory itself was cautious to the point of inertia. Seen now, the Lynx Jaguar Eventer stands as a quiet vindication. Dismissed by management, copied by others, and long overlooked, it has endured because it was fundamentally right. It is not merely a Jaguar estate that never was, but a reminder that some of the most authentic Jaguars were built by those who understood the mark well enough to act when the factory would not. To encounter a Lynx Engineering in the metal is to stumble across one of the rarest and most quietly significant Jaguars ever created, a car so seldom seen that many lifelong enthusiasts will never experience one outside photographs and footnotes. That it was never embraced or produced by Brown's Lane remains one of Jaguar's great missed opportunities, for in the Aventa lies a glimpse of a more confident, more imaginative Jaguar that might have been. This has been a production by Curious Jag. Please like and subscribe.